First and 12. A weekly roundup of America's most competitive football conference, the Big 12. Your hosts are Mitch Harper and Alex Kirry.
Welcome on in, everybody. Happy Tuesday evening to you. Thanks for being with us on the program. Alex Kirry, Mitch Harper. You just heard Mitch's Cougar Tracks just moments ago, getting done right before news, and now we switch gears over to the full-on Big 12 conference. We're jumping in right here. Mitch Harper, how's it going, brother? Everything good for you?
It's good, Alex. Seeing the college football playoff rankings and maybe a little bit of respect to the Big 12. So much to unpack. So happy to be on board with you today. And over the next 2 hours, we'll be diving into all things Big 12 football.
Well, let's get right into that then, and let's get going with this thing, because as it starts off here, you just mentioned it, and the college football playoff rankings roll out this evening, and I know that ESPN pretends like they haven't seen the number, they haven't seen how this thing rolls out. I know that they've said that we don't know exactly how this thing is supposed to roll out, but to me, this one is as big as it gets. Like you said, the Big 12 getting the reaction and getting, I think the rankings that they probably more likely deserve. You could even make an argument that you could probably see some of these teams up even a little bit higher, but certainly you have to be excited about the idea of a number 7 BYU facing off against a number 8 Texas Tech in these first playoff rankings. Those two move up just one from the AP rankings, but Utah jumps all the way up to 13 from what I think was their AP ranking was, 17, I think? And so they jump up right there. So right off the bat, you have some teams right there, but those are the three that are represented in the Big 12. And to me, that's as good as it is. I mean, if Utah keeps winning, if Utah fans are listening and Utah keeps winning, they just keep going up those rankings, because it's just, you're going to see teams keep toppling and going the other direction. It happens every year. These are just the first rankings, but my first blush reaction was, wow. When I kept seeing that Utah wasn't being put into it, I thought, oh my goodness, what is going on right now? And then to see them at 13, I was pleasantly surprised, because for them, if they keep winning, and something tells me the way they're playing that they really will, that those teams, those three teams will be in that discussion, and there will be the possibility there that if a team goes to the conference championship game and one of the other ones goes to the conference championship game, and Utah needs help from other people, they have to be able to make sure and put themselves out there and win every game, but they have to get the tiebreak to be able to figure out a way to get to the conference championship game. But if they're ranked high enough, maybe the committee looks at them and says, well, even if it's a second loss, loses in the conference championship game team, and they get out, that maybe there is the possibility of a multi-team bid for this league, which I think you and I have been talking about all season long. At no point have we seen Big 12 teams really thrown out there by national pundits to have multiple bids, really.
Utah got quite a bit of respect, I think, and for them to be in that mix of Notre Dame, Texas, Oklahoma, and then Utah among the two lost teams, I thought that was noteworthy, and they will, in some ways control their destiny. If they keep winning, they'll be in the hunt to possibly crack into the playoff. And I think for BYU at number 7, I thought that was solid for BYU. I think there's an argument to be made that they should be maybe 5 because, for BYU, the rankings that were revealed tonight, number 1, Ohio State, number 2, Indiana, fine, that's great, Big Ten, there you go. Number 3, Texas A&M, those are 3 undefeateds. 4, 5, and 6 are 3 teams from the SEC with 1 loss, and Alabama, their 1 loss is against a 4-4 Florida State team. BYU, on the other hand, has played a pretty solid schedule. Not great, but it's been a solid schedule, and they're undefeated. I think they should be above Alabama. If you want to say they're behind Georgia and Ole Miss, okay, fine, but still, I think BYU should be above at least Alabama.
Yeah, my thought was put them ahead of Ole Miss even, because Ole Miss, because everybody looks and they go, well, the head-to-head, Georgia beat Ole Miss, and you go, well, yeah, okay, so does that mean Ole Miss needs to be right behind them with 1 loss? It's like, no, put them back another one. Make way for the power conference undefeateds, right? I mean, the reality is that's kind of the way we look at it is, look, if there's going to be a power conference team in there that's still undefeated after 8 or 9 games, and remind me, I think last year BYU was 9-0, and they found themselves in the exact same spot, number 7, waiting behind a bunch of other teams that I think you looked at and you went, okay, look, yeah, we know what conference you're a part of, the Big Ten, the SEC, and at that point, like a Miami team in the ACC. The ACC is absolutely falling apart. I don't think people hanging their hat on Louisville, Virginia, Georgia Tech. Everyone's wondering if those teams are going to show up or if they're going to end up, kind of falling by the wayside because all those teams are one-loss teams. And if they take a second loss, then people aren't going to look at the ACC much longer as and getting that respect. However, teams like Utah, who if let's say BYU loses to Texas Tech this weekend, let's say BYU beats Texas Tech this weekend, let's say Utah wins out the rest of the way. Well, Utah's 2 losses are to Texas Tech and to BYU. And if BYU and Texas Tech end up beating each other, we're talking about strength on strength, and no one's going to argue and say, well, Utah's actually not a very good team. No, they're top 7 in every offensive and defensive category that matters. And people look and they go, well, BYU can't keep maintaining this, except for they have the whole way. And people look and go, well, Texas Tech lost a game. Yeah, they could absolutely sit down and probably beat a lot of these teams in front of them at neutral places. And that's, I think, the part that's really interesting is watching now, because I think as the bracket was it now, I hate doing this, but here we are. If the playoff were to start today, Mitch, don't you hate that? I mean, that is it's so old and busted. But if the playoff were to start today, BYU would be hosting at LaVell Edwards Stadium on the December 19th, Notre Dame, which you and I talked about at some point, okay, that would be kind of crazy. But to see it on the bracket actually written out right now as being the possibility. And by the way, Notre Dame with 2 losses, I mean, at number 10, and the way that the committee and the way that ESPN is talking about these guys, they cannot wait to put a team like Notre Dame in front of another Big 12 team. And if it takes only getting one team in, they're willing to make that sacrifice for Notre Dame, right? I mean, that's you have to have an unimpeachable record if you're in the Big 12 to have a second team to get in. They'll let your champion in because they have to. After that, all bets are off.
And I think what's interesting, too, with Notre Dame is them sitting at 10. One of their losses was to Miami, and Miami is fading. Now,
yes.
if Miami continues to fade, does Notre Dame's 2 losses still look better than Utah's 2 losses against BYU and Texas Tech? I think that's up for debate because that plays a big role into Notre Dame being in the top 10 is the fact that their 2 losses for a while were teams 2 and 3 with Miami and Texas A&M.
Right.
Texas A&M still up there at number 3, but Miami is fading, and they're fading fast. They lost at SMU this past weekend, and they could have another loss or 2. But I think the best roadmap for the Big 12 going forward, if they want to get multiple teams, they probably need BYU to lose this week to Texas Tech, and that's going to be a big one, and we'll talk more in depth about that game coming up. But they probably need BYU to lose to Texas Tech.
Mm-hmm.
Both of those teams
went out
in the conference championship game again, and then whoever wins that one goes to the playoff, and maybe the loser still has enough of a resume to get in, and then Utah continues to hammer teams. That's what they need from Utah is to just beat the brakes off of all the teams in the Big 12, and then you can go to quality control and all these crazy metrics that are getting thrown into the playoff rankings. And if you get that, maybe you got a recipe to get at least 2, maybe if you want to get real crazy, 3 Big 12 teams, but I don't want to go that far.
No, and think about it, too. At this point last week, we were going, what on earth is Cincinnati going to deliver the rest of the way? Well, they got absolutely blown out by Utah, and people are ignoring them and forgetting them until further notice, right? You didn't even see them sniff anywhere near these first college football playoff
rankings. They should be
rankings.
where Pitt's at. Pitt's at number 24. Pitt lost to West Virginia.
How about number 25, Tennessee, with 3 freaking losses? You knew they were going to shoehorn in teams like that on the first rankings. We knew this was going to happen at some point, but you're right. But again, what happened to BYU last year? They went 9-0, and then they lost 2 games in a row, and people just went, well, they're obviously, this is not for them. But then afterward, people revisit it and go, so hold on, how did SMU get in with 2 losses, and one of their losses was to another 2-loss team at BYU? Well, it's because they lost it earlier in the season. Okay, just checking the notes here. So just lose early, Notre Dame, and you'll be fine. Just lose early, SMU from last year, and you'll be fine. If you lose late in the season, well, then we don't want to talk to you anymore. I mean, Houston, we didn't know what we were going to get with those guys, and of course, they deliver the only way that a Big 12 team can, and that is to lose to a team they had no business losing to. This is what this conference delivers every week. Mitch, this is why we like it.
It's a crazy league, but I do think that the fact that they got 3 teams in the top 13 is a little bit reason for, I think, some excitement.
Yes.
Because that's a much better position than where they were at last year in these rankings. BYU, as you noted, was up to 6, and then they faded. But I think that there is a path for multiple bids, and that needs to happen for the Big 12. Last year it was the ACC who got those multiple bids with Clemson and SMU. This year it's the Big 12's turn to make that happen. But, it is dangerous with the SEC because you look at the SEC, they've got 6 of the top 12 teams in the rankings, and there's no cap on the number of teams that can come from one conference. So it's the seeds have been planted potentially to get 4 or even 5 SEC teams into that playoff, and that would be terrible for the sport in a 12-team field that is supposed to be 5 plus 7 with 7 at-large teams, but we'll see what happens. But the Big 12's in a spot to get multiple bids, and that's all I can ask for.
Look at Mitch
on this first night.
Look at Mitch working in the term no cap. I know it was the actual way that you're supposed to use it, but look at us. Looking like a couple of Gen Xers over here. Yeah, come on. Hey, we've got more to go here on the program. We're going to take our first break. We'll come back. We've got our Big 12 headlines, of course, that we're going to feature heavily, and we're going to bring you all of those. The weekend that was in the Big 12, we also are going to have just a full show packed, including next hour, of course, our power rankings. What are they going to look like this week? And much, much more. Stay right here with us. It's KSL News Radio. It is First and 12 right here. Stay with us.
Read all the stories about BYU sports no one else has heard. Go to KSLSports.com for exclusive columns by BYU insider Mitch Harper. That's KSLSports.com.
Welcome back into First and 12, a weekly look at Big 12 football. Mitch Harper and Alex Kirry with you. And, man, this league continues to just ramp up the intensity. We're to week 11 here on the schedule. The chase to Arlington is in full swing, and that means there's a lot of headlines to get to in the Big 12.
12 headlines.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
The dozen storylines that shape this week of Big 12 football. Headline 1.
All right off the bat, of course, everybody is waiting with bated breath to see what this Texas Tech and BYU matchup is going to look like. Of course, College Game Day committed most of the, I think it was, Mitch, what was it? It was like basically the afternoon of that Saturday night or Saturday afternoon late. We had already known that BYU was in Texas Tech were going to be hosting College Game Day down there in Lubbock. And so lots of attention paid to these teams, and that's what you want. I don't know if I love a 10 a.m. kickoff, but hey, Texas Tech has already had some success with a 10 a.m. kickoff this year, coming up and beating the brakes off of Utah in that second half at Rice-Eccles Stadium. So second week in a row, the Big 12 is hosting College Game Day. They've gotten a lot of attention to these national shows this year, Mitch.
Massive stage for that game. Again, we'll have more on that coming up a little bit later. Headline 2, Texas Tech last week took down Kansas State, as you noted, 43-20. Ended a 8-game losing streak that the Red Raiders had against the Wildcats. Wreck 'em. First win in Manhattan since 2008. Red Raiders had 5 takeaways, and Joey McGuire's making the case for his linebacker Jacob Rodriguez to win the Heisman after 2 forced fumbles against K-State.
Listen, you know how it works, Mitch. The only time a linebacker is going to win the Heisman is in my college football NCAA 2026 game. There's no other world where they're going to let it happen. The headline 3, K-State, they were playing well at, 12-7 at the half. I mean, really, when you see the good Avery Johnson, man, he's good. And then you just see the turnover-prone Kansas State Wildcats at some point, and it just did not look good. And that second half, they absolutely blew them up on that one. But yeah, you're right. I mean, that was a game that I think people were looking at and going, well, maybe Kansas State could steal it from them. No can do. Texas Tech walks away with that win, and Kansas State absolutely looking not very good at all. Headline number 4, Utah blasting Cincinnati. They were wearing the All Blacks. It was nighttime at Rice-Eccles Stadium. That is absolutely a recipe for disaster for other teams. 45-14, though, I don't think we could have imagined that. The Utes right now, 138 points in their past 3 games on the offensive side of the football, and they're just absolutely stifling teams on defense, too. They're really good right now, Mitch.
And that showing, I think, was a big reason why you saw Utah tonight at number 13 in the initial playoff rankings. Headline 5, Cincinnati quarterback Brendan Sorsby was 11 of 33. Utah shut him down. They didn't have running back Evan Pryor for the Bearcats. Disappointing performance for Cincy. They still can be in this Big 12 race with only one league loss, but a missed opportunity for Scott Satterfield's squad.
Speaking of guys named Scott, how about Scotty Fox? I think 6th or 7th or 8th or 9th on the QB depth chart with West Virginia before the season started. In all seriousness, the 5th-string quarterback goes and gets it done. Rich Rod gets his first Big 12 win, goes on the road, and, of course, beats nationally ranked Houston, because that's how you do it in the Big 12. You can't just do it normal and beat a really bad team. You got to go into Houston, who was looking like such a good upstart this year, and then their season gets absolutely stabbed in the back by a loss to one of the teams that we were wondering about what they were going to look like in the future. But Rich Rod gets the win, and Scotty Fox getting 222 yards, 65 of those on the ground, 2 rushing touchdowns. Hey, maybe that's their quarterback of the future there at West Virginia.
And you're right, Houston was a great upstart story, but their fans no-showed both on the field and in the stands. It was a poorly attended game for a top 25 team. Complete no-show, I thought, from Houston. They got to step it up as a fan base. They've got great athletic history, but their fans, it's too much of a pro down. Let's see the Coug fans roll out and show up for Willie Fritz's squad. They're still a good team, but that was a missed opportunity last week. Headline 8, don't bury Arizona State yet. Sam Leavitt, he's out for the year. We heard that on our sibling station, the Arizona Sports, that Kenny Dillingham noted that Leavitt was going to have season-ending surgery,
right.
But ASU goes to Ames and still gets a win at Iowa State, 24-19. Quarterback Jeff Sims ran the ball 29 times, and they get it done.
Yeah, maybe this is where we owe them an apology, because neither you nor I thought that they were going to go in there and get it done at Iowa State.
No.
Speaking of which, Iowa State, how about a 4-game losing streak for Matt Campbell and his guys? The Cyclones are 5-4 on the year, but those 4 in a row really hurt for a team that was in the conference championship last year.
And biggest losing streak since 2022 for Iowa State. Headline 10, Colorado feels like they've given up on the season completely. Arizona crushed the Buffs, 52-17 in Boulder. It feels like all the momentum from Coach Prime is officially gone. They're looking to ignite the team with a new starting quarterback in Julian Lewis, the heralded freshman. He's going to get the start moving forward, but all that excitement about Coach Prime, it feels like that's a distant memory.
Baylor, it gets you for headline number 11. They needed this win over the weekend, and they did it in a big way too. Baylor beats up on UCF 30-3, and I'm telling you, UCF right now looking nasty because they haven't. That was the first time they hadn't scored a touchdown in the game since 2015. 10 years, and Scott Frost's guys did not score a touchdown against Baylor. Baylor's one of these places that Utah has to go and play. I think after the bye week for the Utes, they got to go down to Waco and see if they can get that win. And Dave Aranda's looking to resuscitate that job again like he did last year. It's like we're doing this every year with Dave Aranda, but we'll see. I mean, Baylor looked pretty sharp against UCF, and I don't know what to expect because these teams are so inconsistent every week, but Baylor looked really nice against UCF this weekend. And
let's close it out with headline 12. You had to have been a sicko if you watched this game. Kansas beat Oklahoma State 38-21. It was only 10-7 at the half. I couldn't believe it, Alex. Quarterback Zane Flores came back for Oklahoma State. You remember he was the backup entering the season.
Yeah,
so
I barely remembered Mitch. Yes, we don't remember much from him.
He's no Hoss Haney, but he still showed up.
I don't know what to think about either of those teams, to be honest. Oklahoma State, they're like, that's a win for us. We put 3 touchdowns up on the folks at Kansas. I don't know what Lance Leipold and the Kansas Jayhawks are doing right now. I don't know what they're feeling. I don't know what Colorado's feeling right now. You said it, too. Colorado feeling like their season might be in the books. I mean, there's some give-up factor by some of these teams, but then they always tend to shock you when these things happen, too. I mean, every year with all of these, Mitch, all these teams, like we'll say Colorado just gave up 105 points over the past 2 weeks of their last 2 opponents. Of course, they're probably going to win the next couple of games just to show us that we don't know what we're talking about. This is what the Big 12 delivers every week, but you mentioned it too. Of all the teams you have in front of you, you look at the way that these college football playoff rankings came out, and you say, okay, 13 Utah, 8 Texas Tech, 7 BYU. Some good representation there in the first college football playoff rankings. And then there's the rest of everybody else going, okay, can you get to that point? Why not? I mean, the reality is Texas Tech wasn't so far off. Think about when they lost to BYU in 2023, and they were 3-5 at that point in the season, and then here they are now. And BYU only won 2 conference games in the conference that year. Utah only won 2 conference games last year. It can be done. The rest of the conference probably looks at it and thinks the same thing. All right, we're going to take our next break here. Get you to the bottom of the hour. We'll talk about that big game of the week in the Big 12, which is, of course, that Utah-Cincinnati game. Get some of the particulars there and what Kyle Whittingham is doing with that Utah team right now that's getting them rolling so much. So much more to go. Stay right here with us. It's KSL News Radio 102.7 FM, 1160 AM.
First and 12, a weekly roundup of America's most competitive football conference, the Big 12. Your hosts are Mitch Harper and Alex Kirry.
All right, everybody, welcome back. It is KSL News Radio. It's First and 12. Mitch Harper, Alex Kirry. Thanks for being with us on the program. As we break down all things Big 12, of course, the college football playoff rankings, week number 1, they're out, and they're staring us in the face here. And just to update you, the Big 12 has 3 representatives in the top 13. How about Utah at 13? That was probably the biggest surprise, Mitch, right? The one that I think everybody goes, oh, they jumped way up. And if there was one team you could probably make a case for in all of the rankings to say, hey, we didn't go off of the AP rankings, we're our own ranking group, the College Football Playoff Committee would point at Utah. Texas Tech at 8, and BYU opening up the College Football Playoff rankings the first week at number 7. So we'll have more of those to break down as well, but let's break it down, though, Mitch. Right now it is our Big 12, the biggest one that we saw during the week. It was Utah and Cincinnati, and this is where we watched this one, and it got us to where we think about this Utah team really making a move. It's our Big 12 game of the week.
The big time Big 12 game of the week on First and 12.
Utah took down Cincinnati 45-14, and I think this performance over the weekend is one of the big reasons you've got Utah now at number 13 in the college football playoff rankings heading into the bye. And this was a dominant performance because I think we had a lot of questions about Cincinnati. Were they for real? Because honestly, up until the past month and a half of the season, Cincinnati's been an afterthought in this conference since they joined. They've been pretty much just a cellar dweller, and it looked like Scott Satterfield going into this year was going to be on the hot seat. And this was a moment for Cincinnati to really kind of see how they stacked up against a Utah team that was clearly surging after the win they had a couple weeks ago against Colorado, and they just built on that momentum, and Cincinnati was no match for Utah. I thought Utah's ground attack with Wayshawn Parker was an early tone setter for the Utes, and then Devin Dampier, the quarterback, he returned, and he looked really good in this game. I thought Utah all around was pretty complete, whereas Cincinnati, still a long way to go from reaching the tops of this league.
Let me give you some numbers that make Kyle Whittingham have like just these awesome dreams of football playing in his head. How about time of possession? Did you see this stat? The Utes led the time of possession of this game 40 minutes and 2 seconds to 19:58 for Cincinnati. So they double them up on time of possession. That by itself, Whit would say, then we probably won the game. Like if you didn't show them any other stat, that was exactly what it was. Now, Utah lost a fumble. They lost an interception, but Brendan Sorsby didn't turn the ball over more. He was accounted for 1 turnover all season long in the prior 8 games to this game. They end up turning the ball over 3 times. He throws another interception. And it was just what you could tell from that was it just wasn't the Cincinnati team that I think that people were hoping for that was going to show up. This is the Utah team that we've seen do this before, Mitch. Teams come in and they go, yeah, come on in. Play at night. We're going to wear black uniforms. Hope you're okay with that. And I don't know if anybody told Cincinnati, but any team who rolls in to Rice Eccles Stadium at night when the Utah is wearing the black jerseys and they're wearing the hand-painted helmets, like these are absolutely dire situations for teams. Avoid them at all costs. Never play Utah late. Never play Utah when they're wearing the full black jerseys. Never play Utah when they're wearing the hand-painted helmets. All of those things added up to a 45-14 win. And it felt like it wasn't even that close, to be honest, Mitch. I mean, the second half, Cincinnati gets that 88-yard touchdown pass, and you went, okay, this is there's a 10-point game. Utah of last year would have lost that, or would have just kind of floundered on offense, had to punt the ball away, right? We saw this. And now they have an offense that is one of the top offenses in the entire country. From a scoring standpoint, they're number 4 in the country. From a total offense perspective, they're number 11. Far cry from last year when they just couldn't put any points together. They were second to last in the Big 12 in scoring per game. And it was just it just is to see that flip. Not just hiring Jason Beck, but getting Devin Dampier in there, having Devin Dampier healthy. All those things added up to Utah blowing the doors off of Cincinnati that I think a lot of people looked and they went, oh, okay, well, Cincinnati, that's a little bit more along the lines of what we're expecting out of the Bearcats this year. I don't want to totally put them away, but at the same time, that's a tough thing to come back from. But they do only have one loss in conference play, so they're in the conversation.
And in Big 12 games only, if you just focus on just the conference only, Utah is number 1 scoring offense in the league at 36.5 points per game. They have been on fire as of late. And I thought another big piece, too, to this game for Utah was the special teams in Carvalho, who, remember, had that muff punt against BYU.
Right.
And he was facing a lot of criticisms and doubts about him as the punt return man. He silenced those critics with a big 75-yard punt return for a touchdown. I thought that was big. So you're getting all 3 phases for Utah, because when Utah was at their peak with Kyle Whittingham, it feels like they're trending back toward that. You know, they had that complimentary football, all 3 phases, locked and loaded and clicking on all cylinders, the cliche there. But I think that's something that kind of stood out to me, because really, since Utah joined the Big 12, there's been like one area of a game, lets them down. If one area is up, the other area is just a no-show. And having all 3 phases, that's what you get from Utah, and that's what you've seen the last 2 weeks. They're clearly trending up. And I think Cincinnati's still a really good football team. I mean, Cincy, their 2 losses are to Utah and a solid Nebraska team who, was and that was in week 1, where imagine if Cincinnati would not have given up that home game and ended up playing it for money in Kansas City. Maybe they win that game if it had been played in Nippert. You'd be talking about a 1-loss team.
Right. That
would probably be in these playoff rankings tonight too. Missed opportunity there for Cincy, but they're good. I just think that I don't look at them now in the thought of their championship Arlington good. I think this is a 3-team race pretty much, and Utah is clearly in the thick of it. They're just hoping they get some breaks go their way and some things follow their direction so they can get to Arlington, because they feel like a team that if they do get there, watch out.
Yeah, and I think that we've all been impressed with what Scott Satterfield's done this year. The thing that's more impressive to me is when you think about teams that have had turnarounds, it feels like Cincinnati has had a massive turnaround. It's felt like Houston has had a great and huge turnaround. It feels like Utah is the team that we actually kind of knew that they were. It wasn't a turnaround. It was more like of an identity-finding mission over the past, 365 days. You know what I mean? If this is the team that we were familiar with watching them in the Pac-12. We knew what Kyle Whittingham could do when he has the talent that he does. And he's had the talent. It just didn't go together last year. It just was one of these weird off years, and that's what it feels more like, that was the outlier versus, having success as being the outlier. And I'm telling everybody else, because we're familiar with what this Utah team can do, watch out. You could have this team be good for a really, really long time. And by the way, Devin Dampier is only a junior. So when you talk about, or he might even just be, regardless, I think he has a couple of years left under his belt that he could still play at Utah. And that's good news for Utah fans. And they're going to put a good defense together. So whether or not this is Kyle Whittingham's last year or not, that's yet to be seen. But Utah can make a real run right now, and everybody's sitting up and watching, because if this team hadn't won 2 Pac-12 titles, within the past 5 years, we probably wouldn't be thinking of them as much. But I think that a lot of that respect they got from the playoff committee tonight in the first rankings, correct me if you think I'm wrong, because I know they're supposed to go off of whatever else, but it's hard not to be biased by what Kyle Whittingham could do with a team.
I agree, and I think Utah's an interesting barometer, too, in this league, because if you don't show up with physicality, you're not going to beat Utah. They take care of business against teams that are far inferior in the physicality department. And since he could not handle Utah's physicality, the only 2 teams that outclassed Utah in physicality this year were Texas Tech and BYU, and no surprise they won. So I think it's a good barometer of where, when you look at teams long-term in the Big 12 race with Cincinnati, yes, only 1 loss in league, but we know in this conference that physicality has to show up week after week if you're actually going to go win the thing and go to Arlington and win this trophy with John Pardee singing in the background. You've got to have that WWE belt over your head. You've got to have a physical football team, and Corleone is outstanding.
Yeah.
And, it was a big loss to not have Evan Pryor at running back, but still, I just thought that it shows there's a pretty big gap. If Cincy's number 5 and Utah's 2 or 3, there's a pretty big gap between those teams. So I thought it was just a really good performance from Utah. And, again, I think this showing is what put Utah in the position where they're knocking on the door of the bracket for the playoff despite being a 2-loss team this season.
Let's get out to another break here. We'll come back. Guess what we have? Our Big 12 Sound Roundup right around the corner. Going to be able to hear from a handful of coaches, some seeing the success and others wondering what is going on with their team. That's all coming up right here. It is First and 12 right here on KSL News Radio 102.7 FM, 1160 AM. Alex, Kirry, Mitch, Harper, thanks for being with us. We'll be right back.
Read all the stories about BYU sports no one else has heard. Go to KSLSports.com for exclusive columns by BYU insider Mitch Harper. That's KSLSports.com.
Welcome back into First and 12 on this Tuesday night, a important night on the college football calendar as the first college football playoff rankings were revealed, and we'll dive more into that coming up in hour number 2, along with unveiling our weekly Big 12 power rankings. So a lot of rankings to dive into in hour number 2. But right now, we got to hit our Big 12 Sound Roundup.
Big 12 Sound Roundup.
Check 1, 2.
The best bites, cheap shots, and excuses from Saturday's postgame news conferences.
All right, so here's what it looks like across the Big 12. Of course, you have steady teams right now. Texas Tech is one of those. Utah starting to come up and show people what they're made of, and we know what they're made of. ASU with an impressive win at Iowa State. I think we were all looking and going, no, I don't think they're going to be able to do it. Jeff Sims, no way, they can't do it. There's no way that they could pull this thing off. But the very first thing I think right off the bat we need to listen to is some splaining that Coach Prime had to do on what they're going to do going forward, because Juju Lewis, the 5-star superstar out of Cedar Hills High School. No, I think he's actually a Carrollton High guy, but he's a 5-star kid out of Texas. Much publicized, of course, coming in and getting that commitment from him. Coach Prime and his program, they've decided to turn the page totally on Caden Salter. This is going to be their quarterback after another absolute drubbing, this time at the hands of Arizona. Here's what Coach Prime said about starting Juju Lewis at quarterback.
Hey, Coach. Hope you're doing well. Nikki Edwards, Yahoo Sports. What went into your decision to give Julian Lewis the nod this week?
Common sense. Common sense.
It's so simple. That's such a Coach Prime cut, and that's why I made the Sound Roundup, because, yeah, common sense. Caden Salter has been brutal. He was bad, and then it's just been a mess for Colorado. And
who was the dude who started? Who was the dude who started like week 3 or something like that? They're like, he looks good. Whoever the guy was before Juju Lewis, I can't even remember his name at this point. This is how
Ryan
bad
Staub. Ryan Staub, and he came in against
Staub,
Arizona,
man.
and he was a mess too. So it's just common sense, and that's just classic Coach Prime. And look, the aura of Coach Prime has taken a hit as of late, because these last 2 games, terrible. The way they've played against Utah and Arizona, it looks like a roster that is checked out. They don't care what their baggage is, whether it's Louis or whether it's Samsonite. They don't care. They want to just exit and get onto the portal. But I do think that Coach Prime can ignite a little bit of excitement with going with the Carrollton, Georgia native in Juju Lewis, and see if he can have some success going forward, because I think Colorado's got some decent talent. They just don't have the star power anymore. They don't even have the home run guys like I'm not even going to say Travis Hunter, but they have Jordan Seaton. That's about it. Everyone else is just really mediocre, and it makes you wonder if long term, if Coach Prime does stay around, because the health concerns make you kind of pause on whether or not he's going to be in it for the long haul. I believe Coach Prime wants to coach as long as possible. I think he truly loves it in college football, but at the same time, does he have to rethink how he's building rosters? Because the portal's great, and you can flip that thing in a hurry, but when it goes south, it can go bad in a hurry. And I think right now for Colorado, that's been the case.
So
now,
I'm trying to figure out what I know that so they take on West Virginia, right? Isn't that what
yes.
are they going to West Virginia too?
Mm-hmm.
Talk about two coaches who are looking across the other sideline going, hey, look, we're trying to figure this out too. And Coach Prime and Coach Richrod looking at each other going, we're too freaking old for this, man. Like, to be facing each other this late in the season, neither of us have a quarterback who wants to, like, rise to the top. Like, what is the problem here? People used to want to come and play for us, man. We used to have superstars across the board. Yeah, and now – how the mighty have fallen, at least for this season. We'll see how they can turn that thing around.
And the mighties are now rising in West Texas with Joey McGuire and these Texas Tech Red Raiders. They're going to be hosting College Game Day for the first time since 2008. It's flashbacks to the days of Michael Crabtree, and Joey McGuire talked about getting College Game Day to Lubbock and his history with that pregame show.
I've been a part of it. I was a part of it in 2019, and just the atmosphere for our student body, for our fans, and then we're going to have the class of college football when you talk about Herb Street, and I've known him for a really long time. I played in the Herb Street Classic against Cincinnati LaSalle, so I've known him since then, and man, I can't wait to see Coach Saban. He's a rock star, Pat. I'm hoping we set Pat up out on our balcony, where he can do the show from the balcony, and he's facing the north end zone. I mean, that's going to be incredible, and it's just so special to have College Game Day because it's one of those deals. It really is. It's a dream as a player to be a part of that.
What's great about that is that's a guy. I mean, listen to the way he talks about it. He's saying all the right things. He's doing all the right things. This guy is a soldier for Brett Yormark in the Big 12, right? He's like, I just can't wait to get Pat in here, and I can't wait. Like, these are things you would never hear, Kyle Whittingham say, like, I can't wait to get Pat set up on my back porch and be hanging out. This guy has owned it.
He's the man.
He's awesome for the conference. Like, and I'll tell you, to have the success that they're having, I'm tickled with it because I think that Joey McGuire is the kind of guy that is a perfect dude to be able to handle all of it. He understands every bit of it from top to bottom. And, man, it took a minute, Mitch, right? Like, this is a guy who he comes out of Crowley High School, which is like, superstardom in Texas as a high school coach, and everybody's looking at him going, you better figure it out because coaches who go from the high school ranks into the college ranks, they don't get it right very well. And it took him a minute. But I think Joey McGuire is perfect for this program, certainly perfect for a program that is, inheriting the earth, so to speak, and then having to pay out the players with that same inheritance. And I think that they're doing a phenomenal job, and it's a great place to host. And I'll tell you, too, having been to Lubbock, and you're going to find it out this weekend, Mitch, there ain't nothing out there. I mean, it is – to do it there is going to be impressive. And so I'm telling you, I think the world of Joey McGuire, and I think he totally gets it.
He really does. And a guy that also gets it out of his program is Kenny Dillingham at Arizona State. The Sun Devils this week are on a bye, and after that big win over Iowa State, Dillingham did something that I don't think I've ever heard a coach do. He's giving them the entire week off during the bye. This was Dillingham.
They're off till next Sunday. Yeah, never done that. Never been around somebody that does it. This has been an emotional season, physically, mentally. These guys need to get away, and they need to come back ready for a 3-game stretch where we can accomplish anything we want to accomplish. So I want these guys to get away. Like I said, this is not just physical. We're banged up. The emotions of this season have been strong. They've been high. So we got to get these guys away, the coaches away, and to come back in this thing rested mentally and physically. We're going to have a physical practice on Monday when they return so we can get into a normal Tuesday week. That way when we practice, we can be physical, we can be violent, we can be intentful. But, yeah, we're going to take the entire week off.
I love
Dillingham's
that.
the man.
Yeah,
and I will say, Alex, the jaded side of me as a media member, part of me is thinking, is he just saying, "Hey, everyone leave so I can have some coach interviews"?
I was gonna say, are you going to do the private jet tracker as soon as we get done with the show right now? I know that's what I'm gonna do. Hey, everybody, why don't you go off and head out to Mexico with your family, go have a good time.
Just go. You're fine. Go.
Listen, the cynical part of me thought the same thing today, and yet I can't. I don't have the. Mitch, I don't have the energy to start trying to look around and going, but Kenny Dillingham, remember all the stuff he said about the Valley? Like, man, I just don't have it in me to, like, chase all that down. There are 1 million Power 4 jobs open now, and it'd be hard to think that none of these people aren't calling him at the very least or calling his representation. It's how it works, man.
He's got to stay. He's got to stay in the
to.
Big 12.
But listen, $9 million at Auburn isn't worth a dang thing a year when you start to really think about it. It really is not.
Sure.
So he needs to stay there. I think he understands it. Boy, I really hope so. And I hope it doesn't start off a string of crazy hirings and firings as we go along here. As we go along, we're getting into hour number 2 next. We'll stay right here, get you your Big 12 Power Rankings next. Stay tuned in. It's 1st and 12 right here on KSL News Radio. Mitch Harper and Alex Kirry. We'll see you right around the corner here. We got more to go. Stay right here with us.